Good evening. I'm going to read The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. Pitch. Charmaine likes to be busy, but sometimes in the afternoons at dusk, there's not much to be busy about. She's already wiped down the bar counter twice. She's rearranged some glasses. She could watch the nearest flat screen where a baseball replay is going on, but she isn't much interested in sports. She doesn't see why a bunch of men chasing each other around a field and trying to hit a ball and then hugging and patting butts and jumping up and down and yelling can get people so worked up. The sound's turned down low, but when the ads are on, it gets louder. And also they run the words across the bottom just to make sure you get the message. Usually the ads are cars and beer on the sports shows, but all of a sudden there's something different. It's a man in a suit, just the head and the shoulders, looking straight out of the screen, right into her eyes. There's something convincing about him, even before he speaks. He's so serious, like what he's about to say is very important. And when he does speak, she could swear he's reading her mind. Tired of living in your car, he says to her, really straight to her. It can't be, because how could he even know she exists? But it feels like that. He smiles, such an understanding smile. Of course you are. You didn't sign up for this. You had other dreams. You deserve better. Oh yes, breathes Charmaine. Better. It's everything she feels. Next, there's a shot of a gateway in something that looks like a shiny black glass wall, with people walking in, young couples, holding hands, energetic and smiling, pastel clothing, spring-like. Then a house, a neat, freshly painted house with a hedge and a lawn, no junked cars or wrecked sofas lying on it, and then the camera zooms in through the second floor window, past the curtains, and moves through the room, spacious, gracious, those words they use in the real estate ads for places in the countryside and on beaches, far away and in other countries. Through the open bathroom door, there's a charming, deep-sided tub with lots of giant, fluffy white towels hanging beside it. The bed is king-sized with nice, clean sheets in a cheerful floral design, blue and pink, and 4 pillows. Every muscle in Charmaine's body yearns for that bed, those pillows. Oh, to stretch out, to fall into a comfortable sleep with that safe, cosy feeling she used to have at Grandma Wynn's. Not that Grandma Wynn's house was exactly the same as this one. It was a lot smaller, but it was tidy. She more or less remembers a different house from when she was little. It might have been like the house on screen. No, it could have been like that if it hadn't been such a mess. Clothes rumpled on the floor, dirty dishes in the kitchen. Was there a cat? Perhaps briefly. Something bad about the cat. She'd found it on the hall floor. It was the wrong shape, and ooze was coming out of it. Clean that up! Don't talk back! She hadn't talked back. Crying wasn't talking, but that hadn't made any difference. She was wrong, all the same. There was a hole in her bedroom wall the size of a large fist. Not surprising, because that was what made it, a fist. She used to hide things in that hole, a beanie baby, a cloth handkerchief with lace on the corner. Whose was that? A dollar she'd found. She used to think that if she pushed her hand in deep enough, it would go right through, and there would be water, with blind fish and other things with dark teeth, and they might get out, so she was careful. Remember what your life used to be like, says the man's voice, during the tour of the sheets and pillows, before the dependable world we used to know was disrupted. At the Positron project in the town of Consilience, it can be like that again. We offer not only full employment, but also protection from the dangerous elements that afflict so many at this time. Work with like-minded others, help solve the nation's problems of joblessness and crime while solving your own. Accentuate the positive. Back to the man's face. Not a handsome face as such, but a face you could trust, sort of like a maths teacher or a minister. You can tell he's sincere, and sincere is better than handsome. Really handsome men were a bad idea, said Grandma Wynn, because they had too much to choose from. Too much what? Charmaine had asked her, and Grandma Wynn said, never mind. The Positron project is accepting new members now, says the man. If you meet our needs, we'll meet yours. We offer training in many professional areas. Be the person you've always wanted to be. Sign up now. That smile again, as if he's gazing deep inside her head. Not in a scary way, though, in a kindly way. He only wants the best for her. She can be the person she's always wanted to be, after it was safe to want things for herself. Come here. Don't think you can hide. Look at me. You're a bad girl, aren't you? No was the wrong answer to that, but so was yes. Stop that noise. Shut up. I said shut up. You don't even know what hurt is. Forget those sad things, honey, Grandma Wynne would say. Let's make popcorn. Look, I picked some flowers. Grandma Wynne had a little patch at the front of the house. Nasturtiums, zinnias. Think about those flowers instead, and you'll be asleep in no time. Gateway. Getting into the positron project won't be a slam dunk. They aren't interested in just anyone, as Charmaine whispers to Stan on the bus that's picked them up from the parking lot collection point. Some of the people on the bus can't possibly make it into the project. They're too worn down and leathery, with blackened or missing teeth. Stan wonders if there's a dental plan in there. So far there's nothing wrong with his own teeth. Lucky, considering all the cheap, sugary crap they've been eating. Sandy and Veronica are on the bus too, sitting at the back and nibbling on the sack full of cold chicken wings they've brought with them. Every once in a while they laugh, a little too loudly. Everyone in the bus is nervous. Charmaine especially. What if we get rejected? She asks Stan. What if we get accepted? She says it's like being picked for sports teams when she was at school. The bus trip goes on for hours in a steady drizzle. Through open countryside, past strip malls with plywood over most of the windows, derelict burger joints. Only the gas stations appear functional. After a while, Charmaine falls asleep with her head on Stan's shoulder. His arm is around her. He draws her closer. He too dozes off. He's awake by the time the bus stops at a gateway in a high black glass wall. Solar generation, thinks Stan. Smart, building it in like that. The group on the bus wakes, stretches, descends. It's late afternoon. As if on cue, mellow sunlight breaks through the clouds, lighting them in a golden glow. Many are smiling. They file in past the seeing eye boundary, then through the entrance cubicle, where their eyes are scanned and their fingerprints taken, and a plastic pass card with a number on it and a barcode is issued to each of them. Back on the bus, they're driven through the town of Consilience, where the project is located. Charmaine says she can hardly believe her eyes. Everything is so spruced up, it's like a picture. Like a town in a movie of years ago, like the olden days, before anyone was born. She squeezes Stan's hand in anticipation, and he squeezes back. This is the right thing to do, she says. They get off the bus in front of the Harmony Hotel, which is not only the top hotel in town, says the neatly dressed young man, who's now in charge of them. It's the only hotel, because Consilience isn't exactly a tourist destination. He herds them into a preliminary drinks and snacks party in the ballroom. You're free to leave at any time, he tells them, if you don't like the ambience. He grins to show this is a joke. Because what's not to like about the ambience? Stan rolls an olive around in his mouth before chewing. It's a long time since he's had an olive. The taste is distracting. He should be more alert, because naturally they're being scrutinised. Though it's hard to figure out who's doing it. Everyone is so fucking nice. The niceness is like the olive. It's a long time since Stan has encountered that muffling layer of smiling and nodding. Who knew he's such a fascinating dude? Not him, but there are 3 women, obvious hostesses. They even have name badges, deployed to convince him of his own magnetism. He scans the room. There's Charmaine, getting a similar treatment from 2 dudes and a girl. Her slutty hooker friends from Pixel Dust are in that group too. They fix themselves up. They even have dresses on. You wouldn't really spot them as pros. The next day, the workshops begin. After the first one, they'll still be free to leave, they're told. In fact, they'll have to leave because Positron wants you to take a good look at the alternatives before deciding. As they have good reason to know, it's a festering scrap heap out beyond the Consilience gates. People are starving, scavenging, pilfering, dumpster diving. Is that any way for a human being to live? So each one of them will spend what the Positron project hopes, what it sincerely hopes, will be their last night on the outside. to give them time to think it over seriously. The project isn't interested in freeloaders, tourists, just trying it out. The project wants serious commitment, because after that night you were either out or you were in. In was permanent, but no one would force you. If you signed up, it would be of your own free will. The next morning, they take the final step. Stan barely even reads the terms and conditions because Charmaine is so eager to get in. After all, they've been chosen, she says, and so many have been rejected. She smiles mistily at Stan as he signs his name on the form. "Oh, thank you," she says. "I feel so safe." Then the workshops begin in earnest. Or, as one of the leaders quips, they've had the shop, now they're getting the work. They are about to learn so many astounding new things, and it will require their full concentration. Men's workshops over here, ladies over there, because there will be different challenges and duties and expectations for each, and besides, they'll be separated for a month at a time when they're in the prison part of this project. A feature that will be explained more fully to them shortly. So they might as well start getting used to it. Their first workshops, leader says with a chuckle. Anyway, abstinence makes the heart grow fonder, as he's sure they know from experience. Another chuckle. Be a loner, get a boner, thinks Stan, a rhyme of teenage Connor, who'd had a collection of rhymes like that. He watches as Charmaine and all of the other women in the group leave the room. Sandy and Veronica don't look back, but Charmaine does. She smiles brightly at Stan, to show him she's confident about their decision, though she looks a little anxious. But then, he's a little anxious himself. What are these astounding new things they're about to learn? The men's workshop leaders are a half a dozen young, earnest, dark-suited, zip-picking graduates of some globally funded think tank's motivational speaking program. In his past life, the part of it he'd spent at Dimple Robotics, Stan encountered the type. He disliked them before, but as before, they can't be avoided, since the workshop classes are mandatory. In a jam-packed day of back-to-back sessions, they're given the full song and dance. The rationale for consilience, its history, the potential obstacles to it, the odds ranged against it, and why it's so imperative that those odds be overcome. The consilience / positron twin city is an experiment, an ultra important experiment. The think tankers use the word ultra at least 10 times. If it succeeds, and it has to succeed, and it can succeed if they all work together, it could be the salvation not only of the many regions that have been so hard hit in recent times, but eventually, if this model comes to be adopted at the highest levels, of the nation as a whole. Unemployment and crime solved in one fell swoop, with a new life for all those concerned. Think about it. They themselves, the incoming positron planners, they are heroic. They've chosen to risk themselves, to take a gamble on the brighter side of human nature, to chart unknown territories within the psyche. They're like the early pioneers, blazing a trail, clearing a way to the future, a future that will be more secure, more prosperous, and just all round better because of them. Posterity will revere them. That's the spiel. Stan has never heard so much bullshit in his life. On the other hand, he sort of wants to believe it. The final speaker is older than the Zitty youths, though not that much older. His suit is of the same darkness, but it looks lusher. He's narrow-shouldered, long torso, short legs, short hair too, clippered around the neck, combed back. The look says, I'm buttoned down. There's a woman with him, also in a dark suit, with straight black hair and bangs and a squarish jaw. No makeup, but she does have earrings. Her legs are good, though muscular. She sits to the side, fooling with her cell phone. Is she an assistant? It isn't clear. Stan pegs her as Butch. Technically, she shouldn't have been here, in the men's session, and Stan wonders why she is. Still, better to look at her than at the guy. The guy begins by saying they should call him Ed. Ed hopes they're feeling comfortable because they know, as he does, that they've made the right choice. Now he would like to give them, share with them, a deeper peek behind the scenes. It was a struggle to get the multiple permissions needed to set up the positron enterprise. The powers that be did not decide easily. More than one policy guru's arse was on the line. He smirks a little at his own daring use of the word arse. As witnessed the hollowing when the howling when the scheme was first announced in the press. The spokesmen, or rather the spokespersons, Ed glances at the woman who smiles, have braved a lot of indignant screaming from the online radicals and malcontents who claim that consilience stroke positron is an infringement of individual liberties, an attempt at total social control, an insult to the human spirit. Nobody is more dedicated to individual liberties than Ed is, but as they all know, here, Ed gives a conspiratorial smile, you can't eat your so-called individual liberties, and the human spirit pays no bills. And something needed to be done to relieve the pressure inside the social pressure cooker. Wouldn't they agree? The woman in the suit glances up. What's she looking at? Her gaze sweeps over them, calm, cool. Then she turns back to her cell phone. Without a phone himself, Stan feels naked. They'd had to turn in their cells at the beginning of the workshop. They've been promised new ones, but those will work only inside the wall. Stan wonders when the new ones will be issued. Ed lowers his voice. Serious stuff coming up. Sure enough, on comes a PowerPoint with a slew of graphs. The financial big guns have concealed the true statistics to avoid panic, he says, but a shocking 40% of the population in this region is jobless, with 50% of those being under 25. That's a recipe for systems breakdown, right there, for anarchy, for chaos, for the senseless destruction of property, for so-called revolution, which means looting and gang rule and warlords and mass rape and the terrorisation of the weak and helpless. That is the grim prospect staring everyone in this area right between the eyes. They've already noticed the symptoms for themselves, which he is sure why they saw the desirability of signing in. What can be done, Ed asks, wrinkling his brow. How to keep the lid on, which it was in the interest of society at large to do, as they would surely agree. At the official leadership level, ideas were running out fast. There's only so much manpower and tax revenue that can be devoted to riot control, to social surveillance, to chasing fast youths down dark alleyways, to fire hosing and pepper spraying suspicious-looking gatherings. Too many once bustling cities are stagnant or derelict, especially in the northeast, but other states are being hard hit, especially where long droughts have taken their toll. Too many of the disenfranchised are living in abandoned cars or subway tunnels or even in culverts. There's an epidemic of drugging and boozing, suicide-grade alcohol, skin-blistering drugs that kill you in under a year. Oblivion is increasingly attractive to the young and even to the middle-aged, since why retain your brain when no amount of thinking can even begin to solve the problem? It isn't even a problem. It's beyond a problem. It's more like a looming collapse. It's their once beautiful region, their once beautiful country, doomed to be a wasteland of poverty and debris. Ed turns off the PowerPoint, puts on his reading glasses, consults a list. Practical matters. Their new cell phones will be issued in the main hall. At the same time, they'll receive their housing allocations. The details are explained more fully on the green sheets in their folders. But in brief, everyone in Consilience will live two lives. Prisoners 1 month, guards or town functionaries the next. Everyone has been assigned an alternate. One detached residential dwelling can therefore serve at least 4 people. In month 1, the houses will be occupied by the civilians, and then, in month 2, by the prisoners of month 1, who will take on the civilian roles and move into the houses. And so it will go, month after month, turn and turn about. Think of the savings in the cost of living, Ed says, with what is either a tick or a wink. As for purchasing power, always a hot topic, each of them will be given an initial number of posi dollars, which can be exchanged for items they may wish to purchase as the Consilience shops or at the Consilience shops or from the internal network digital catalogue. The sum will be topped up automatically every payday. Objects purchased to individuals that individualise the living spaces may be either stored during prison time or shared with alternates in case of breakage. The alternates will of course replace such items using their own posi dollars. There is a maintenance staff that will take care of each things as plumbing and electrical issues. And leaks, Ed says. The roof kind, not the information kind, he adds with a smile. This is supposed to be a joke, Stan guesses. Duty. Lunch completed, Stan has a brief rest in his cell. Then, when the chicken dumplings have settled, he works out in the weights room, concentrating on his core strength. Then it's time for his shift at the poultry facility. Positron has 4 kinds of animals: cows, pigs, rabbits and chickens. It also has extensive greenhouses that stand on the sites of demolished buildings and several acres of apple trees in addition to the outdoor market gardens. These and the soybean and perennial wheat fields are supposed to produce the fresh food, both for Positron Prison and for the town of Consilience. Not only the fresh foods, but the frozen ones. And not only food, but drink. Soon there will be a brewery. Some items are brought in from outside, quite a few items in fact, but that state of affairs is viewed as temporary. In no time at all, the project will be self-sustaining. The heart goes last. Charmaine slips her green smock on over her orange basics. There's another special procedure scheduled for this afternoon. They always do them in the afternoon. They like to avoid the darkness of night. That way it's more cheerful for everyone, herself included. She checks to make sure she has her mask and her surgical gloves, yes, in her pocket. First, she needs to get to the key from the monitoring desk that sits at the conjunction of 3 corridors. There's no reception in the flesh at that desk, only a head box, but at least there's a head in the box, or a canned image of a head. Whether it's live or not is anyone's guess. They do those things so well nowadays. Maybe soon they'll have robots carrying out the special procedures, and she'll no longer be required for them. Would that be a good thing? No, surely the procedure needs the human factor. It's more respectful. Could I have the key, please? She says to the head. It's best to treat the heads as if they're real, just in case they are. Log in, please, says the head, smiling. She, or it, is an attractive, though square-jawed brunette, with bangs and small hoop earrings. The heads change every few days, maybe to give the illusion that they exist in real time. Thank you, says the head. A plastic key slides out of a slot at the bottom of the box. Charmaine pockets it. Here is your top confidential special procedure for today. A slip of paper emerges from a second slot. Room number, Positron prison name, age, last dosage of sedative, and when administered. The man must be pretty doped up. It's better that way. In the assigned room, the man is attached to his bed at 5 points, as they always are now, so thrashing around, kicking and biting are not possible. He looks up at her. Despite the drugs, he's clearly frightened. He tries to speak. A thickened sound comes out. They always make that sound. She finds it a little painful. Hello, she says. Isn't it a lovely day? Look at all that sunshine. Who could be down on a day like today? Nothing bad is going to happen to you. This is true from all she's observed. The experience appears to be an ecstatic one. The bad part happens to her because she's the one who has to worry about whether she's doing it is right. It's a big responsibility, and worse because she isn't supposed to tell anyone what she's actually doing, not even Stan. Have a wonderful trip, she says to him. She pats his arm, then turns her back so he can't see her sliding the needle into the vial and drawing up the contents. Off we go, she says cheerfully. She finds the vein, slips in the needle. He says. He strains upwards. His eyes are horrified, but not for long. His face relaxes. He turns his gaze from her to the ceiling, the white, blank ceiling, which is no longer white and blank for him. He smiles. She times the procedure. 5 minutes of ecstasy. It's more than a lot of people get in their whole lifetimes. Then he's unconscious. Then he stops breathing. The heart goes last. Textbook, if anything, better. It's good to be good at what you do. What will happen to the body? Not cremation. That's a wasteful power draw, and no inmates in any form, dead or alive, depart through the gates of Consilience. She's wondered about organ harvesting, but wouldn't they want them brain dead, and on a drip rather than plain old dead, period? There are some things it's better not to think about. Tonight she'll join the knitting circle, as usual. Some of them are doing little cotton hats for infants. Some of them are working on a new thing, blue knitted teddy bears. So cute. Had a nice day, the knitting circle women will say to her. Oh, a perfect day, she'll reply. Thank you. I hope you have a lovely evening. If you do want to read this book, That's the name of it, and it's very, very dark, and it gets far darker after that page, I can tell you. Good night.